Hello, and welcome back to Siah Chattin podcast. Hello, thank you. So, just want to let you guys know prior that I am a little sick, but I still feel like I want to deliver this podcast episode for you guys because you guys deserve it. My advice and my perspective of things have really been helping people out in the long run, and just opening their eyes to what to do better as a person in this time that we're in now. But before I get started, make sure you guys please share and follow my podcast channel. I am streaming on all platforms besides Apple Music. We are still working on that. But we are streaming on YouTube and we are streaming on Spotify. So if you guys know anybody who you feel like needs to hear this message, please feel free to send them this and let's just start. Let's just get it ready, get it popping. You know what I mean? Now, as you guys know, obviously my last podcast episode was a little bit more personal for me. One thing about it, I love talking about stuff that I'm passionate about. It makes me feel very seen and makes me feel like I have a voice. So like why not use it? So if you guys have not watched episode 4, which is based around relationships and friendship, please go do that now. And if you have, just get comfy and get some snacks, get a little drink, and we are going to talk about putting trust and faith within yourself. Whether that's your career, whether that's your love in your life, your passion, it's going to wrap around that whole one too. Obviously, growing up, I wouldn't even say growing up. Let's say this. I want to say, obviously, I want to start off by saying this. With everything that happened in 2020 with quarantine and COVID and everything, it almost made us feel like our life was on pause. I know I'm not the only one who thinks that. It made me feel like my life was on pause for a very long time, and I personally feel like my life just got started in 24. Does that make sense? It feels like things that were supposed to happen in 2020, whether that's life or, hardships, highs and lows, I feel like it's starting now because when 2020 happened, it kind of just gave a gap year without no chaos. That's exactly what I see it as. So now it kind of feels like coming into an adult, and I'm sure there's a lot of other adults listening to this, coming in as an adult, me being 22 years old, I'm dealing with a lot of those hardships and, those highs and lows and stuff like that. But there's comfort in knowing that. There's comfort in being able to embrace that just because you're at a low, that doesn't mean you're in a low forever. Gag it. Thank you. That's something that took me a very long time to remember because me being a chronic overthinker, I overthink like crazy, you guys. I'm a Cancer. But with that, I've been able to develop these habits and these, mental games I can play with myself in order for me to stay in a positive space and knowing that what I'm doing is right, as long as I'm doing something and making an effort to push towards something bigger and stronger and greater, that's going to be recognized at the end, at the end of the day. And that's something I had to truly learn. So we're going to go ahead and introduce this as in making sure you guys are embracing your highs and lows, not only talking to God when you're at a low point in your life, but also making sure you're talking to Him and giving yourself grace and thanking Him at the high points of your life. Sometimes we have a habit of asking for reassurance, and that's completely fine. We have a huge habit of asking for reassurance or guidance and help me please get out of this low point of our life, but never do we really talk to God when we're at our high, like, thank you for putting me in the position that I'm in right now. I'm grateful for all things that you have done for me and more, and so on and so forth. Embracing our highs and lows comes in varieties. I feel like sometimes we have a habit of looking at social media, the perception of social media. A lot of people, post what they want you to see. They post what they want you to see. So it can put something in your mind or put that thought in your mind like, oh my gosh, I feel so behind. I feel like I'm not doing what I need to do to be successful. But it's like, no, people still go through their lows. People still go through their hardships in life, but people don't have that vulnerability to post that, which is, that's normal. Sometimes you don't want to talk or, post about your low moments, which is okay, but make sure you're not scared to embrace that in private. I always embrace my lows because I know I'm not going to be in a low forever. Some things may not turn out how you want it to be, but that's okay. That doesn't make it a low. That makes it a redirection. It's not a rejection, it's a redirection. And that goes with cars, you getting your first car. This goes with you getting your apartment. This goes with you getting that job. If you got denied from this job, there's a reason you got denied for that job, because you got something. What you're worth way much more than that job. At least way more than what they can offer. You can get something 10 times more. And I had to learn that. I always used to beat myself up when I was in 2020, 2021, trying to apply for jobs before I really took social media seriously, because I was like, damn, I can't really get seen or recognized for my work ethics. But that doesn't mean other people doesn't recognize it whatsoever. I used to always beat myself up in a sense of my dancing, for an example. I used to always get upset when I didn't make it. I did a whole competition, fun fact. I did a whole little competition, but it was also based off of votes and, paying and all that stuff like that. But it made me feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm not worthy of dancing. I'm not worthy of being that good of a dancer. But it was like, no, 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 no. You are worthy of dancing. The fact that you even put yourself out there speaks a lot more volume than you not doing anything at all to even get towards your passion. And I had to remember that. I had to embrace that. And like, you know what? If they can't recognize my talent, I know somebody else will. If they won't recognize my talent, I know someone else will. And so on and so forth. And it just continuously keeps going and going and going. And you will come across the right thing that you're looking for. You just cannot give up. You cannot give up. You cannot give up. It's very important to embrace all highs and lows. It's very important. It's very, very important. And make sure you're always applauding yourself. Make sure you're giving yourself grace whenever you don't really do something that, is up to your standard. It's okay. The fact that you even tried to do it in the first place speaks volume. You know what I mean? Just because you didn't get that job does not mean that you're not worthy of getting a job, period. Just because you didn't get that job doesn't mean that your work ethic isn't as good as you think it is. But the moment you stop, the moment you give up, that's the moment you fail. Your story is over once you give up. Your book is closed once you give up and you stop really working towards something that you're passionate about. You know what I mean? So just always keep that in mind when it comes to that. I feel like one thing that I truly had to learn, as long as, embracing your highs and lows, is definitely making sure and recognizing that, learning that things and your goals aren't just built and it comes overnight. I can't just wake up one day and say I want to dance, and then the next day I'm just this amazing Tate McRae, Beyonce ass dancer. You can't do that. You're feeding yourself this narrative, and this narrative is toxic. You got to make sure that what you're working for, you're willing to work for and put in that work in order to come out greater and stronger. One step is better than no step, but you can't skip all those steps and just think you're going to make it to the top. The steps aren't just going to appear. You got to make that step. You got to make that effort, And that's something that's really big to realize, is that you can't expect you to accomplish your goals if you're not willing to put in the work to get there. A lot of people miss that factor a lot. They miss it a lot, and people give up easily. I can say for me at least, I've had my moments where I gave up so easily, but it was never from a space where I put in that work to give up. I just got frustrated. I got very overwhelmed or overstimulated, and I was like, you know what, this is too much work for me. I'm just not going to do it. But you got to also realize, I had to realize it as well. The reason why I'm not able to really put in that much work, or I'm feeling overstimulated or overwhelmed over the situation, is because it's not something I truly have a passion for in the first place. I had to recognize that. I had to recognize that the things that I'm passionate about, I don't care how long, how hard I'm working on it. I know deep down that this is something I want to do. So I'm going to make sure I put my discipline over my motivation. Discipline over motivation is so important, you guys. I cannot stress that. It is so important. It is so important. I don't remember if I touched base on it in one of my previous episodes, but I do know that discipline over motivation is so important. So important. It can be as small as you going on a run and you don't want to go to the run. Go on a run. Right? You don't want to go to the gym whatsoever. But you know that you want to be disciplined. You know where you want your body to be. I don't go off of motivation anymore. The amount of times I went into the gym, y'all, and I sat on that floor for like 5-10 minutes, just like, oh, I don't want to be here. But the fact that you showed up anyway is a step than none. Very, 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 very important to make sure you recognize that and give yourself grace. I keep saying that, y'all, that grace word is one of them ones. Give yourself grace for the things that you are accomplishing, and give yourself grace for the things that you are trying to do to make your life better. Okay? That is so crucial in growing up, especially in our 20s. Sometimes we can be in our 20s and feel like that we're behind, and we feel like we're not on the right steps and paths of doing what we need to do. Da da da. No, no, that's not true. That's not. You are where you need to be. The moment you get out of your lane and look at somebody else's car, you're going to crash. You are where you need to be in life. Although you may not feel like it, but it also comes from a space of realizing that you're looking inside out and not outside in. And I had to realize that as me being a content creator. You are exactly where you need to be. God put you in this position for a reason now. If you just sitting on your ass and you're not doing anything and you're not really doing anything to make your goals come to life, then you're reaping those repercussions. But if you're actively trying, you may not feel like you're seeing growth. There is growth because you are not in the same position you was a year ago today. Every single time you feel like you're behind, see where you were a year ago today and do a comparison a week ago from today. And that can go from mentally, your passion, financially, emotionally. It can go in all those different areas, you know? And that should bring you comfort in realizing that, you know what, like I get so caught up in realizing that, you're doing so much throughout your day. You get so used to your day to day that sometimes you don't really see your accomplishments. You don't really recognize how much you've done and how far you've came as a person. I'm the same way. And that's okay. But recognize it in the moment that you do feel that and you do know that, you know what, I am kind of being hard on myself and I need to give myself more grace. Let me see where I was a year ago today and see if I can make a sniff. There's always that one thing that stands out differently from what you were doing before. I promise you. It may not be as big. It may be as big, but it may be as small as well. But there always is a little shift in something, whether you can feel like even whether you feel like it or not in this moment. Something has changed from you now from you a year ago, and that is very, very, very important. Recognizing that redirection is a great thing. Actually, it's a great thing for our mental. It's a great thing for us to strive towards, because sometimes we can wrap our heads so much around of rejection and allow that to be the pivot moment of us just saying fuck it all and giving it up. But no, you can't do that. You can't say that, because you're only setting yourself up for failure. You're only setting yourself back. Sometimes we get so caught up in thinking that we're running out of time and that we're not this and we're not that. Man, that's not true until you put that thought inside of your head. What you put out in the universe is what you receive. I'm very, very big on that. And that applies to negativity that you put out. And you can't do that to yourself. This world is already as crucial as this world already is. You only have yourself to be positive. So rely on yourself when it comes to being positive. Learning and knowing when to stay positive and knowing how to keep that energy up forever and keeping that positivity consistent throughout your life despite the hardships that you come through. And that's why I said before, I'm very big on rejection. It's just redirection. Get that ass up, girl. Just because you didn't get that job don't mean nobody else is paying attention to you. Just because that nigga don't see you for who you are doesn't mean the other 7 billion niggas out there don't see you as worthy. Because you are. You're special. You're worthy. And sometimes people tend to overlook that. And I myself have felt overlooked plenty of times by men and didn't feel valued. But that doesn't mean there's somebody out there who doesn't value me. And that's very, very important. Because I want to be seen. I want to be loved. I want to be cherished. And the moment I feel like those things aren't really being shown, it makes me feel like I'm being rejected in all areas where I feel like I should be loved. And I don't want you guys to feel like that, because it sucks to feel like that. It sucks. It's not a good feeling. So anytime you feel like you're not worthy of love, or you feel like somebody rejected you and it didn't work out the way you wanted to, that doesn't mean anything. That means you're being redirected towards something bigger than what you think it is, towards something greater and stronger and more healthier and passionate. Don't give up. Don't give up. Your story isn't over until you give up. Your dreams are blacked out. Once you give up, don't do any of that. Each day you show up for yourself. Each day you wake up, you have already shown up. You already made the first step towards having a great start to your day. Start your day very positively. And make sure you don't wrap around your rejections and your lows for your days, because that's going to be the pivot throughout your whole day. It's going to make your day negative. Anything might trigger you. Try to work on leaving what's in the past and letting a new day be a new day. And trust me, it's easier said than done. I'm going through it myself of admitting that and learning that. But the fact that I'm able to recognize it and know that I'm trying to make a conscious effort is a step to none. Trust yourself. Trust that you're not going to be in this position forever. Trust God that He has something greater for you and that you're not going to be in this situation forever. Believe. That's all we really got in this world right now. This one is a short little episode, but I did want to film something. Like I said, I am a little sick and stuffy, so I apologize. But I hope you guys were able to get something from this episode than nothing. And I shall see you guys next episode. Make sure you guys follow and share this with somebody that you guys believe who really needs to hear this and truly needs a different perspective of life, because I know I always do sometimes. Again, this is Siah Chattin podcast, and see you guys later.